Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Marching Forward with Flow. I am your host, Andrea Pratt-Smith, joining you from the beautiful island of New Providence in the Bahamas. And I'm joined today by my very special guest, Karen Yeates. And Karen, last week we were supposed to have our Marching Forward with Flow, but unfortunately, we are in the heart of hurricane season in the Bahamas. And so we had to reschedule due to inclement weather. We had a tropical depression that was passing through, and that made internet connectivity very challenging for me. So I'm very appreciative that Karen was flexible enough to change her schedule and accommodate us for this episode 8 of Marching Forward with Flow. So, for those of you who may be joining us for the first time, Marching Forward with Flow, I've been doing these LinkedIn audio lives from the year I started. I did a few sessions last year, about 6 sessions, just to test it out and see if it's something that I wanted to continue. I've had so much fun doing it that we are now on episode 8. We have these sessions once per month, and Karen is my guest for today. So, Karen, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your experience with agile coaching, and what exactly it is that you do as a profession?
Well, hello, Andrea. Thank you so much for inviting me. What can I say about myself? I'm from the Caribbean. That's the main thing you need to know.
Yes,
Trinidad
yes.
to be exact. And so you said, what do I do every day? Every day I work as a project manager slash program manager for an organization based out in Virginia. And we do work with the United States government. So we do work on some government contracts. I can't get specific into what that is, but just know that I work with several teams throughout the day, doing project development, software development, and then I also manage an overall um, our resources that we try to get on these projects. So that's my day to day thing. What
Oh,
I do when I'm not
uh-huh.
when I'm not at that job, I work in spaces where I try to help people with either in the career development or in business development because I do love helping organizations go from an idea to implementation. So I've done a lot of mentoring in that area, helping people get their businesses together. So I'm a creative mind, just like you. What can
That's
I say?
awesome. That's awesome, Karen. So what would you say inspired you to pursue this path, this career path?
I don't know if it's let me just say if it's inspiration. I think since as a young lady growing up in the West Indies, one thing I was always interested in was in teaching others, sharing knowledge. I was always doing that from a very young age, and I wanted to be a teacher. And so with that always in my background, in the back of my mind, I think I've always been put into situations where I am in a teaching, and I also believe in continuous learning. And that's kind of where, when I got into Agile and Scrum and all these things, I think it worked perfectly for me because that was always my mindset. So, having always thought I wanted to be a teacher and to share knowledge, I always want to give back. And so, however
Mhm.
that falls. So, I've worked in different spaces, but it all comes down to where I am helping another person. And so, even though I may be in different arenas, bottom line, baseline, I do the same thing. I want to help somebody get from point A to B. I want to help an organization grow. I want to help people to grow. I want people to achieve their best, be their best that they can be. And that also helps me to be the best that I can be because I see myself in people.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of, if I want to say a path, it was more of that, just following that, who I am.
Yeah, that's great, Karen. And I share similarities with you about knowledge sharing and really having a heart to help people and seeing people succeed. So what are some of the most common challenges you see organizations facing when implementing agile practices and how do you help them overcome these challenges?
Let me see. Well, that's very deep. Because a lot of people think they're doing agile practices in organizations, or they don't really. Nobody follows anything by the book per se, right? The quote
Yes.
unquote book.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very difficult to do that because it's such a dynamic organizations that we live in, and we are dynamic individuals. So to get a ton of people in a room and for everybody to think the same and for everybody to follow a path, it's difficult. And even if you think that you are, I've heard people say things like, "This guy's such passionate. He's so passionate about this work, but he is not following the backlog. He's doing his own thing."
Yeah.
So we run into all of that. So I think if the challenges, if we want to use the word, I see it as opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to say it's a challenge, I would say it's trying to contain people's passion, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It's about your passion is I want to get this done. I'm excited, but then you're not following some of the ground rules that we said we wanted to do, or some of the guidelines. Or we sat down and we took all this brainstorming and we put together a backlog and the requirements, and then people are having a hard time trying to understand that. Sometimes going all the way back to the business units, do they know what they're asking for, right?
Yes.
And making sure that these conversations happen. So as I say, I know people like to use challenge, and I kind of fall into that mindset. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's opportunity for us to to connect. And what I try to do when I go into the room is I try to see if everybody is clear about what they got to do. I follow the school of thought where if everything is clear and we have understanding, we can get to the next level. So I think if people spend a lot of time just making sure that they understand each other, things usually tend to work out if we can get on the same page. But usually that's not it. I think it's containing passions, managing people's energies in whatever form that comes in, right? Whether it appears to be conflict or whether it appears to be excitement. It's about trying to manage it so you can get the job done.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And I could be very passionate. So I may be one of those persons that need a bit of reining in sometimes because I normally start out when I think about a project or even a micro project, I have these grand ideas. Like I want to just conquer the world sometimes. And then my team have to reel me back into reality and say, you only could do so much. Like, we have constraints here. So I'm one of those visionaries who just see the big bright picture, but then I don't sometimes think about what are the requirements, how can we just streamline this, focus on our main objectives and execute that way. So I totally understand about those passionate people because I tend to be that person on my teams. But speaking about teamwork, I'm happy to say that we've met in person. So you're not one of those people who have just met in the virtual world and don't know if they're a real person or not. But we actually met in person in June at the Agile and Brunch event held in Alexandria, Virginia, and
Mhm.
we also not met, but we knew each other prior to that by being a part of the same community of practice, the Scrum Masters of African Descent. So it was really good to meet you in person in June and to also be working with you as part of the planning committee for the Scrum Masters of African Descent upcoming conference in October. So, can you tell us or share with us a little bit about what excites you most about this year's conference and its theme, the future of work, AI, agile leadership, and resiliency?
Okay. Well, actually, it was wonderful to meet you, Andrea. I must say that because we have met, as you say, virtually since I think that was back in 22, right?
Yes.
Being in different communities of practice and just connecting like that. But let's talk about SMAD. Scrum Masters of African Descent. It's an organization that's been around. I want to say about well, it was inception by the founders probably about 7 years ago, but really, really put into practice where they meet in this formal fashion about 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, I joined them. Um, Not 5 years ago, actually, I met them in 22 as well, 21 or 22. But if that's
Mhm.
5 years, I can't count.
No.
But we this is the third event that I'm going to be there with them that they're doing in this formal fashion, and
Mhm.
I'm super excited because every year we've been growing. right? We tend
Yes.
to keep it in North Carolina because that's where they're based. The founders are based. And so it's going to be in Raleigh this year. Year before it was in Charlotte. We try to mix up the cities a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But what's exciting about this group is it's a bunch of young people who are all excited about Scrum and agility and agile. And, we have project managers there, we have agile leaders, we have, release trained engineers, anybody who calls himself being a practitioner in that space, right?
Yeah.
And so we come together, and the goal of what started this process, if you speak to the founders and the leader, is they wanted to share knowledge. It was just a community of practice that just extended into connecting in person. And what happens at this conference, as I've seen in the past, is, and what we expect to do this year, is to continue that theme, to help you. I mean, we have sessions where people, if you don't know how to use Jira or Raleigh or even Excel, we'll have somebody sit with you. We call them tabletop coaching, and we'll sit with you and we'll go over that for a session and take your questions and understand it. We have people who will help you with your resume or with interviewing skills, right? Tend to speak a lot about leadership and in that space because that's kind of my wheelhouse, right? Brave leadership,
Mm-hmm.
excellence, leadership and excellence, and that's going to be my topic this year. But the AI, just kind of hit us with a bang, right? It's not new, but it hit us in this space. Um, Maybe for me, I could say from about 2 or 3 years ago is when I noticed it started to come in, but now it's here. And it does help if you use it correctly, or it can hurt depending on how you do that.
Yes.
But I think what we're going to do this year is we looked at the we looked at the world at large because we have people from pretty much about 3 or 4 continents and how many countries in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and we looked at that, and we looked at how people are dealing with what's going on in their own space. And one of the issues that we're running into is sustainability and resilience. And so
Yes.
we kind of made the conference theme around being resilient, trying to understand who you are, like you say, marching forward with flow. Keep moving, keep marching forward with some type of flow, but being resilient as things come your way, because there are going to be obstacles. We can't, change is constant. Obstacles are important and necessary for us to get to the next hurdle. And in the many of my talks, I always tell people we grow in the comfort zone, right?
Yes.
We grow in the discomfort zones, not in the comfort ones. We have to be in the uncomfortable spaces for us to grow. So this conference this year is themed around resilience. It's
Mm-hmm.
themed around understanding where AI is, accepting that it's here. It's probably not going anywhere, of course, and that we need to be resilient in our knowledge. Maybe we need to increase our knowledge. Maybe we need to understand what's going on. Maybe we need to understand how we could implement this in our work, right? And I think that's the mindset, of course, behind the theme that we chose, and we hope that we can execute that in all the people that are coming, the industry experts, people like yourself, people who are in the space, how they are utilizing AI, and also how we can stay resilient as we go through all these challenges, or as I call them, opportunities in life.
Yes, yes, yes. And I'm so glad to not only be working alongside you and the other team members in planning the conference, but also to be a speaker at this year's conference, because I've been trying to get to the SMAD conference for the past 2 years maybe. And every time it was a conflict in my schedule and I wasn't able to attend. So this year I had the opportunity to not only be a part of the planning committee to plan the conference, but now to also be a speaker. And I'm so excited that this year I'll be presenting a new presentation that's no one has ever seen before. The title is AI Guardians of Heritage: Preserving African Diaspora History Through Technology, and it's going to really be a showcase of a project that I'm working on with my project team. Some of us are we are based all over the world. Actually, it's a global team, and two of the founders, one is in Brazil, the other one is in Atlanta, and we have team members in California, Philadelphia, some in Atlanta. So I am really excited to be able to showcase Full Circle's project and what it is that we're working on and how we're using technology to preserve the African diaspora history. So that's what my presentation is going to be on. I am working very diligently to make sure that I have my deck created before the deadlines, and I'm excited about it. So, Karen, what is your presentation at the SMAD conference going to be about? I know you touched about it briefly.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what you're going to be talking about. That sounds like it's a very deep topic, and I'm sure, and trust me, this is a lively bunch. So be prepared. Be prepared for questions, and be prepared for um people just wanting to kind of get you to explain yourself and make sure that they understand what you're talking about. And we really get into it. We really get into it's very laid back and relaxed, casual environment, and we really get into asking people to to get into the space. As I said, I'm speaking about how to create and build your team to excellence. I did a
Mhm.
similar presentation for the team that I'm working with here, that I was asked to do for a retreat we had in July, and I am going to tweak it and make it a little different for this group. But I'm going to talk about how to synergy with your team. A lot of times we touched on it a little bit earlier when we talked about people who are super excited,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Or
yes,
let's use the word passionate, right? They're
yeah,
passionate about the project and what the organization is trying to achieve. And then during the sprints, um, they might just go off on their own little tangent, and because of all this energy, they may be coming outside of the flow of the backlog. And so it's very difficult when things keep coming in the middle of the sprint, or different times. And so what I like to do is to try to build the team back together and talk a little bit. So I'll touch on how to manage yourself, how to manage your time, how to make sure that we get your vision early when we're doing those conversations about building the backlog, so
yeah,
that you don't come when we're already started and say, oh, we need to go back and check at this, right? And you're
yes.
not a project, and you're not the product owner, you are actually a developer. And of course, we don't want to curtail anybody's passion, right? We don't want to interrupt anybody's flow, especially if it is all part towards a project. But we want to make sure that people understand that we do have to follow some certain guidelines. So my goal is to how you, as a leader, as a team leader, as a project manager, as a scrum master, how do you get your team to stay within to how do you lead your team with excellence? How do you
Yes.
lead your team where they feel that what they're doing is important, that they are part of a group, that they are building synergy, and that we could get to where we want to go without losing anybody per se, you know? And so it's gonna be I have very interactive presentations, as you'll see.
Mm-hmm.
And so I let people tell me what they're thinking, and then we try to get the answer among ourselves. So we'll see how it goes, but it's kind of leading towards tell me what you consider excellence to be. How do you tell me how you want to keep your team together? And then let's see if I have some little ideas or suggestions or tidbits that could help you get to that next level. Because that's how I like to teach. It's always a back and forth with me. It's never I don't preach.
Yes, yes.
I sit in the room with you, and I'm on the other side of the table, and we kind of work together. That's kind of how I do everything I do. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's very engaging, and I'm sure that
Yes.
the attendees would love that type of interactive presentations. I try to build that into my presentations as well, especially when it's in person. Because only so much you could do online, like only so much polls you could ask the audience to take or to send
Hmm.
reactions in the chat. So it's a whole different environment when you're actually at a conference and you have a live audience and you can engage them and capture their attention and draw them into what you're presenting. So I really love that. And I hope that I'll be able to do the same as far as when I deliver my presentation. Um,
Right.
so, how do you see AI and technology impacting the field of agile and business strategy in the coming years? Because I know you spoke about it and how the use is becoming more prevalent and everybody's talking about AI and so how do you see AI and technology impacting the field of agile and business strategy in the coming years?
Well, personally, I think it's already here, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
think we are. I don't think we should act like we're surprised.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what is AI? No,
Yeah.
it's here. It's here. It's here to stay. I think what we do need to do is figure out how we could continue to keep our team be motivated and to grow by utilizing this is like a tool,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. It
It
is.
it doesn't replace us as humans, dynamic thinking. You said something just now about trying to when you do an interactive presentation,
Mm-hmm.
you'll realize that you can't control what people are going to blurt out and say. You
No.
can't control what people are going to ask. And it takes us in a different path. So the only thing you have to do is just manage it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I do like about that is the frequent feedback and things that you don't even know that somebody was going to ask. And that's what I like about AI. If we look at it as being able to enhance what we already do and already know, right?
Mm-hmm.
um and I would think it becomes scary. To some people it's scary. Oh my gosh, you're taking over. But to most of the people that I've run into, see it as an opportunity to enhance what they already know. But you gotta know something. So
Yeah.
it's challenging you because the AI is taught by us. We
Yes.
teach. So what are
Yes.
you teaching it that is going to help you? And I'm talking about, when I say you, I'm talking you as a collective around the world. What are we teaching it so that it can help us? Or are we teaching it to not help us? So I think that's the, if I want to say if there's anything to look at in regards to AI, is that we need to understand what are we putting into this, because what you're putting is what you're going to get out with a little massaging. So how do we massage it to get the the what we're trying to achieve, right?
Yes.
And so that's exciting on one side, and it's slightly scary because
Mm-hmm.
it's open to everybody, right? It's open.
Yes.
And so anybody, depending on their motivation, what are they putting into it? And I say anybody, I'm talking about groups and teams and organizations. What's your motivation? What are you trying to do? And that's where we need to have that balance. It has to have a balance of, it can't be all or one, it can't be all or nothing. It has to be a balance, and we have to look at it from every perspective. But at the end of the day, it should be to increase and enhance humanity in a positive way. If it's going in any direction that is outside of that, then we need to take stock and check. And that's why we should have, like in Scrum, we have opportunities where we double check what we're doing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Where
we do.
we have to continuously prove, where we have to be transparent, where we have to look and see what's, if this is makes sense. This has to happen in AI as well. I'm not saying that we need official teams and it needs to be like,
Mm-hmm.
either government or anything like that. I'm saying it needs to be, people just need to look at it this way and say, let's look at humanity first. That's where should be your main back end thinking. And then anything moving forward, remember that's what you're doing it for your
Yes.
children and your children's children. So if people can look at it that way, as we should do everything else, I think we'll be fine. Because it
Yes.
does help move things a lot faster for us. And so we just have to look at it like that.
Yes, I agree with you. And I think about AI like every other emerging trend or every emerging technology that has been introduced in whatever different industrial age or revolution that we're going into. So the same thing with automobiles. When it was just horses and
Mhm.
buggies, everybody was comfortable, and then when Henry Ford came up with the idea of cars, it was new, it was different, and I'm sure he faced oppositions. So
Of
that's why
course.
he has the quote. If I had asked them what they would wanted, they probably would have said faster horses. So so sometimes, technology and all of these different emerging technologies is just us riding the wave of change. And
Correct.
evolution has taught us that the race that survives is the one that can adapt to evolutionary change. And I think that's what AI is doing for us. It's showing us that we're going through an evolutionary change with technology. And those who oppose it are going to get left behind. And those who embrace it and learn about it are going to be, riding that wave and not be behind the curve. So that's how I look at it. I don't look at it as something that I should be fearful about. I look at it like, how can I train my model? And you said it correctly. We have to train it because it's like you're raising a child. You're training it how to respond to you. You're training it how you work. You're training it to provide you with the results that you're looking for. And the more you talk to it, the more you, like you said, mold it and massage it, the better the responses are. But if we shy away from technology and we fear it, then we're just going to be stuck in the days where we riding a horse.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, remember, I mean, the aeroplane was the same thing, right? It was
Yes.
everybody had a ship or a boat, and then nobody was thinking that we could get up in the sky, and here we are. I mean, how else are you going to travel today, right? So,
Yeah.
um, it's with everything else. It has it's a time for it, and this is a time. And you, if you're in this time, you should be happy that you're in this time that you could actually help, um, support it, change it, direct it in a positive way. But the main thing, as I said, is a bit preserving humanity. It should not be trying to replace, because we're the ones building it. So why we want to build something that's going to replace us? So you gotta look at it from that perspective, and look at it where it's supposed to be helpful more than harmful. But as with everything, there's harm in everything. So you just have to have that balance.
Yes, exactly. There's always a balance, and we need to strive for that happy balance. So I have one more question, or maybe two more questions. We have about 4 minutes left. What would you think, or what would you say has been the most rewarding aspect of your career so far? Like, does
Um,
any particular achievements or moments that stand out for you?
Yes, you know what I always say to people, and I'm kind of putting these thoughts down in writing now these days, and hopefully I could leave something for people to read after I'm gone. I the biggest joy, if the word I want to use, is the connections that I've built over the years, because I believe in relationships over everything else. I always tell people the all the jobs that I have, it was through a connection. Somebody called me and was like, Karen, would you like to do this? Or would you be interested in this? Would you like to be part of this group? And those are the ones that I have the greatest joy from, because it was through a connection. So it could have been somebody that I met 20 years ago, you know.
Yes.
And I think that if I look at everything, if I sum everything up, the relationships that I've built over the years, whether they've done something for me or not, is the fact that I was able to take the time to nurture those. And so I believe in relationships over money,
Hmm.
relationships over, um, and it's not a number of relationships either. I'm not running out here trying to get a million followers and all that sort of stuff. I'm
Yeah.
gonna, it's got to be meaningful and it's got to make sense. And
Yes.
my connections, I am very protective. The people, when you get into the space, a certain space with me, and
Hmm.
you get to that, I protect you, and and I expect the same from you, for you to protect me, because it's
Agree.
not, I don't just let anybody into that nucleus. And so that's the main thing with me. If I could continue building strong, rewarding, successful relationships, which year after year they grow and they blossom, and then I could, support other people and what they're doing. That's, yes, these people support me as well, but that's the reason for us to connect, is because we want to bring our what we want to bring. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. We want to bring what we have together, right? Our connections
Yes.
together, what we share. And if we could continue doing that, and then I think it makes sense. So
Yes.
that's the main thing for me. I would say, if most rewarding is that I can look back and say, "Wow, I met this person 20 years ago, and we're still connecting today and could do something. They didn't forget me. They know who I am. I'm still the same person to them, and vice versa." So that's important to me, and I want to continue doing that.
Yeah, well, I agree with you wholeheartedly because that's one of my life sentiments that I live by, people first. And it's, like you said, if you have genuine connections, I call them divine connections, and you focus on building those relationships, then whatever else you're trying to accomplish, I feel the universe will just manifest those in a positive way to still help you accomplish what it is that you're supposed to accomplish in life. But it's about being sincere in your relationships, guarding your contacts and your connections, and just helping people achieve their goals. And I think if a lot of persons have that kind of mindset, then we'll all accomplish so much in life because
Mhm.
it's not a competition. It's not a competition.
Right.
And I keep
Right.
saying that, it's really not a competition. So in our final few seconds, what advice would you give to individuals who are new to Agile or looking to enhance their skills in this area?
Well, there's always a book, a course, a training, a certification. I mean, we are in a space where it's continuous improvement is one of our mantras, and I totally believe in that. Coming from a space where I've always seen education, and whether you want to call it formal education, going that path, or whether it's education, educating yourself in your own area, what you know, right? Um, it's that's important. That I would definitely encourage people wanting to come into this space to try to understand what it is and try to understand who they are and how they fit and to learn as much as you can. With that being said, does that mean you have to be all theory and no practical? No. You have to take a chance on this knowledge that you said you've gained and to put it into practice. And and how do you do that? It may not be through a job. It may through volunteering. It may
Mhm.
be through internships. It may be through you setting it up in your own space. Like I remember one time I was joking with a friend of mine, and I said I had to sort out one space in my house, and she was like, "Girl, you just need to Kanban that," and I was like, she was like, put all the activities on your Kanban board, and and go through the process. And I was like, yeah. So we have to incorporate it in our lives, and that's how you get to understand how it truly works, right?
Yeah.
And then you could see where the nuances are, or where the things that you need to fix. So maybe you do need to go and learn what it really means. But at least you took the time to take the practice into it. And something you'll hear this from our keynote speaker when that we're having for this year's conference, which is Devon Morris. He always says, you got to put agility and Scrum into your life. It got to be part of you. And so I would say that, seek out people like him, people like who are in this space who've been there before us, people who and seek out their advice, seek out connections. And it's not about asking people to do something for you. It's just about connecting with people on a more authentic level. Because I believe I go right back to the same thing I always talk about, the true value of your relationships and your connections. Build connections based on trust, understanding, and authenticity, and it will bring richness into your life that goes way beyond having money, anything tangible, right? And if you do that, these jobs will fall into your place. The things you want to do will come. The opportunities will come because it's not about looking at those things. It's about building connections on trust, understanding, and authenticity. If I could say anything and to leave you with, that is what I would say to people coming into this space. Doesn't matter where you are, but if you don't build connections based on trust, understanding, and authenticity, your life is not going to be rich. And because you're not enriching anybody's life, how can you expect them to enrich yours? So that's my last words, I would say.
Yes, so thank you so much, Karen. Those were powerful last words, and you actually echoed a post that I just placed on social media just yesterday, a short little clip about when I was on the panel discussion at the Agile and Brunch event, and was asked about what do I think is a skill or a trait that persons are lacking in the profession of Agile practitioners, and I said authenticity. Straight up
Mhm.
authenticity. We don't have enough persons who are genuine in their relationships, in their communications. It's just lacking. And I think, like you said, if persons would just be authentic, then we would get so far, not only as individuals, but as far as working on our projects and everything else we're trying to achieve. So
Mhm.
I totally echo everything you said, and I love your final words. So I want to thank you so much for being my guest on this episode of Marching Forward with Flow. I look forward to reconnecting with you in October at the SMAD conference and continuing to work with you on the planning committee. You guys have been excellent. I've learned so much about planning conferences just through volunteering to be a part of the planning committee. And I am excited about coming to Raleigh in October. Looking forward to all of the exciting networking activities that's planned for this conference. And I invite anyone from the listening audience, if you have not as yet purchased your tickets for the SMAD conference, Please, I encourage you to go out and get your tickets as soon as possible. They are available. And the conference is from October. Let me make sure I said this right.
25th to the 27th
Yes.
of this year.
October 25th to the 27th will be held in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I will also add a link to SMAD's website on the YouTube channel when this recording is uploaded. So I thank you so much, Karen, for joining me and being my very special guest. I look forward to seeing you in October. Until then, you be well and be blessed. And I appreciate you dearly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And of course, you know you can reach me anytime you need anything. Just connect, just call. Okay.
Thank you so much, Karen. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend. This is Andrea
Yes,
Pratt-Smith.
I want to say to you, best of weekends to you and everybody listening. I always like to tell people, have the best of weekends. So
Yes.
enjoy, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.